Fluoride stare, the defective epithet for the reaction truthers get when they say something untrue. 97% of Western Europe rejected water fluoridation. Action Network's Fluoride Alert astroturfing on Wikipedia. I still haven't gone through and unhacked Wikipedia yet. I'm waiting for them to get angry, try to flag me. So here we go with the fluoride factors for the day. After being forced to eat Frankenstein food, European cattle will drink Frankenstein water, according to EU criminals. Now I'm going to post a little response here. This is, by the way, only caused by the fact that I got a new battery. I'm not low on battery. I'm going to have a cat pick where he's like, falling asleep. But anyway, here we go. Frankenstein food. The methods by which we caused animals and plants to have random genetic mutations so we could accelerate our torqued up version of evolution for many decades before, that all of you anti-GMO people bring up as being preferable to selectively altering genes. That method is never brought up by anti-GMO people. We irradiated and cancer-induced animals and plants to test them. Yes, this is nuclear age shit. As well as chemically damaging them to cause, on purpose, in vitro and in utero, genetic diseases that the animals would then be tasked to survive to try to make better animals, including exposing them to nuclear blasts. I hear crickets when I bring that up to anybody who's anti-GMO. Well, I'm talking about genetically modified organisms. Yes, you mean organisms that grab a chunk of DNA, which is literally just the same blasted coding system with different data from a different animal or plant, and mixing them together, sometimes between animal and plant, or even human beings maybe someday. We call that Frankenstein food. You guys won't talk about the zombie apocalypse nuke food that we did originally, including deliberately infecting animals with viruses, letting them breed, and then dealing with 5-headed cattle coming out to see if we could create virus-resistant animals, and ending up creating different animals and plants. Religious fanatics who talk about bananas being perfect foods when we engineered them for millennia to be less seeded and more likely to be that shape. Bananas of it originally were nearly inedible from having to take out all of the seeds. You would wait till it ripened, peel it, and push it through a strainer to get out all the seeds to get banana mush. That's why banana candies taste different than bananas. That's the actual original banana flavoring. It's a totally and most of you don't know it except for a candy. This is like finding an insect that emulated, or a plant that emulated an insect to get the insect to land on it, and then the insect dies and the plant still emulates an insect that's been gone for 20,000 years. This is a residual piece of data you weren't aware of? When I talk to anti-GMO people, they have been taught verbatim regurgitation methods so much that they'll repeat the word Frankenstein food, but not acknowledge us literally inducing mutation in animals to increase the variation in them statistically for the bell curve, to create all sorts of humps and weird antler things, so that we can create animals that never existed before. Do you really think that cow with a set of udders bigger than its head was really walking across the plains anywhere? Are you a freaking moron? Is that crystal flaming shish kebab shit clear? Next, after being forced to eat Frankenstein food, the animals you're referring to were eating hybridized foods. Well, it's GMO. The GMO stuff is to make it to where Roundup won't kill it. We're making plants that we can't kill with herbicide. That was literally what you're referring to. You're referring to the Roundup genetic modification. The main reason I have a problem with it is, instead of giving it away, several companies wanted to make sure that they could patent it. That's not a problem. For 5 or 10 years, or 20 years even, depending on the patent, originally the patent office would grant a patent. You could keep your patent. You could keep making money off of it. Nobody could steal it from you because you went through the hard work. Now it's for 100 years plus, I mean, a lifetime plus 100 years. And it's always awarded to large corporations which don't have a lifespan. So it never ends. The whole idea of a patent is it was supposed to end eventually for the good of the people. You know, us people. But corporations and Disney made sure that patents and copyrights don't really ever lapse. So instead of going after the GMO jackasses, why aren't you going after Disney? Why aren't you demanding that the patents lapse so everybody can use this? I've already covered this subject a couple of times, but why are you bringing this up? Because it's a conspiracy theory, and if I keep arguing it this way, we'll never have to end our argument. I know how to end the argument. Tell them that their patent is over with if they don't publicly apologize for manipulating our patent system, and say it will be public domain after a period of time. Just like all the medications that should be public domain after a period of time that aren't, because actual real big pharma has nothing to do with pharmaceuticals that are supposedly killing everybody. It has to do with not letting other people make a cheaper version of it in a capitalist society so that you and I can afford our health care. You want to lower the cost of food? Make it to where they can't patent it for more than a certain period of time. Yes, they get to patent it and make their money. They get to make their money back. And it should be variable. But no more than like 20 years. I think 10 years is too long. But tell me I'm big pharma and big farm agribusinessman, the proud but humble agribusinessman that's a faceless corporation. Please tell me I'm in favor of that. Scream it from the hilltops. Oh my goth. The EU criminals, you mean the European Union, that actually made rules at one time to get rid of the patent law and loopholes? You're angry at the European Union because they might actually make them lapse it so that anybody can use this stuff without restriction? Isn't the other part of this that the GMOs are being used to keep people from making organic food? Let's talk about organic food. Genetically modified by blasting it with radiation in utero. Blasting it when it's seeds, breaking DNA chains randomly and seeing if they self-assemble into something that won't be poisonous. Or genetically modified foods where you precisely change one damn thing to get rid of, really, a feature in the plant that you didn't want. For instance, again, making corn that can't be killed by Roundup. Roundup is a poison. You don't want a poison-resistant corn. That's my response. Well, they use poison and toxins and cancer-causing. No. It's a genetic modification to it. It's well documented. They had to make the patent work. To even get a patent, you have to reveal your secrets. That's the whole point. It's a public disclosure so that eventually you have no choice. It will be taken from you. By making these lies up, did it ever occur to you guys that when you repeat this crap, that it benefits these large corporations because everyone looks like a crazy, disingenuous, lie-spreading, proof-falsifying jerk? Of course not. It doesn't leak into anybody's brains. If you're going to actually have a change in life, stop being a damn activist. As for Frankenstein water, stop being a homeopath. It's just freaking water. If you don't want to have any fluoride in it, I'm in favor of it. I'm anti-fluoride. No, I am. For the same reason that Israel was for a while, and we're going to talk about that. And you don't want me to, because you all post a meme, I go look it up and tear it apart. Anyway, here's my question. In one of your videos I watched, you referred to yourself as, I believe, a minister. I have a specific title wrong. This is actually somebody's not being a jerk. Let's get him done. Let's get this normal person out of the way. I apologize. Let's go generic. A man of faith. Having said that, I watched a video about our pineal gland. Supposedly it's our third eye used to see in a spiritual sense. Anyhow, supposedly one of the reasons that fluoride is added to the drinking water is it calcifies the pineal gland and makes us less spiritual and more prone to giving into our more base instincts. Indulging in the short-sighted pleasures of the material world and the consumers. What's your thoughts on that? Absolutely every part of it's not really true. Number one, the pineal gland is related to a light-sensing organ at one time in history. It's a leftover function. In other animals, it is actually used for light seeing. It's also a sign that we probably came from the sea. As for it being involved in seeing something spiritual, there is no basis for that, and that's rejected immediately, because by definition, if it's supernatural, it's not able to be tested. I'm not being a scientist or a Satanist or whatever here either. I'm just saying you can't test for it, so why make the assertion? You can actually test for this, by the way. I'm not kidding. You can test. No test has actually shown that it actually works. As for calcifying the pineal gland, that's not a thing either. And if you have calcium levels dropping in your brain, you get metabolic bone disorder and drop dead from violent, screaming, horrifying convulsions. Now that really does happen, so you don't want to decalcify the pineal gland. Also, I'm going to get ahead of you here. You don't want to change the pH in your blood either, because you'll kill yourself. It's a thing. But as for the byproduct of fluoride, fluoride does not do that unless it's calcium fluoride, right? Okay. What does it do? Where's the studies? No, it's a bunch of assertions by a bunch of gurus who smile a lot. Yes, I'm talking like that. I'm doing an impersonation, a bad impersonation of somebody from Pakistan or India. Let's confuse them so they both get mad at me. You see, we just talk like this, and I sound like this, even though it's a person who grew up in Britain and never had that accent. Like Ramtha, with a bad British accent, supposedly from Atlantis. So Atlantis is Britain. You basically talk in a slightly triggering way to get people to have that soft, fluffy feeling, and they glaze over and they don't think. None of this has ever had any basis of any kind. If you want to post something about it, that's great. Please do so. And on that note, someone accused me of being in favor of the evil oligarchy of the medical industry killing us. If you really believe that, I'd like some proof. I had somebody go off on me and get really nasty about it, who normally doesn't do that. I'm going to be covering that in a separate video, maybe. Proof isn't someone's assertion on a blog where they literally refuse to give you any proof. Our level of proof is based on, do we trust the person? Why would you trust anyone on the internet? Anyway, if you want to show that the pineal gland gets calcified and that affects something, first you have to prove the pineal gland is involved in some sort of spiritual awakening or somehow filtering out. Remember, this is a primal organ in the brain that's from when we were probably still sea creatures. I mean, that's the basis for it, presumably. So that's supposed to give us higher understanding and make us less basal instinct based. Okay. Next, somehow fluoride's supposed to, again, change that, and it's supposed to be calcium, when most fluoride isn't calcium fluoride. Okay, so this doesn't make any sense in any way, shape, or form. 5 layers deep. It's a dead subject. Next. WAPTEK, stop snorting coke. I don't snort coke. I have sinus cavity damage from something even more interesting, occupational hazards doing work. And also getting head colds repeatedly and having strep throat several years in a row, apparently, when I was a kid, but I don't know about it. So, next, it's affecting your speech. My speech is affected by all my front teeth being broken from a bicycle accident and then them decaying and falling out. They haven't fallen out yet. That's probably the biggest problem I have. If they fell out, it'd be a little bit better. So, this person's evaluating my speech ability and everything else, and going off on me about fluoride, by accusing me of taking coke and commenting on my speech capabilities. Next video.